Welcome to Rainer Teo's show. This is the podcast where I interview entrepreneurs and mavericks who get shit done. Hey, what's up, my friend? So today we have Adam Khoo. He's a professional investor, the co-founder of Adam Khoo Learning Technologies, and has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Wow. And here's a fun fact. Do you know that Adam holds his wife's hand and go to bed every single night? So clearly he's not only a master of finance, but a master of love as well. So if you want to connect with the master of love and finance, I'll put the link to his social media profile in the description below. But for now, right, here's what we have covered in this conversation. Number one, we talk about how did Adam Khoo, right, go from becoming an F student to getting straight A's. What is the secret sauce, right? What is the thing, right, that led to this transition? Number two, how did he grow his business from 0 to 8 figures, right? From organizing simple disco parties and to now developing curriculum, educational programs for both adults and children. Number three, his secret to a happy marriage. He talks about the things that he does with his wife that shows you a side of him that you rarely see. Number four, parenting values that he believes in and how it has shaped his children. And finally, number five, he shared with us, or rather he shared with me, right, since I'm talking to him, yeah? He shared with me important life lessons, business lessons that he has acquired along the way. So all in all, this is a conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed and hope you do too. So with that said, go listen to it right now. Okay, Adam Khoo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Rainer.
I'm super excited. Just one thing to share, right? I think many people do not know, right, that, your book, right, the book called The Secrets of a Self-Made Millionaire, that is actually the book, right, that inspired me, right, to be my own boss, right, and to do my own thing, and to give me the belief that I can do it. So I'm very happy, right, that you wrote that book, because that's the one that actually ignited the fire in me. So thank you, Adam, for that.
Oh, great to hear. Thank you.
So from what I do know, right, both of us actually from the same secondary school, Ping Yi Secondary School. And what's funny is that when I was in secondary school, my teacher used to say, hey, guys, boys and girls, you guys know that you guys are actually the top three schools in Singapore. And then I was like, wow, really top three, from the bottom, right? So it was Ping Yi, Changkat Changi, and Changi. Was it Changi Sec? Maybe times have changed now, but we were clearly not at the top. So fun fact, right? You were from Ping Yi as well. Yeah. I think I saw some Facebook ads running. You like to use not say you like, but I saw pictures of you in Ping Yi with that face looking at the camera.
My marketing team loves to use that picture. Like, if this idiot can do it, you can do it, right? Because I looked like an idiot at the time.
That is a very, Hokkien got a kiam pa face. That was a good face to definitely get attention. Yeah, so clearly, you didn't had A's, right, throughout your academic life, right?
Well, probably, not the early years. Not the early years, but the later years.
F at the start, right? Probably not so well at the start.
Well, kicked out of school.
Kicked out. So which school? Were you kicked out of Ping Yi or before that?
No, St. Stephen's.
St. Stephen, another school, St. Stephen. Okay. So how did you then go from, someone got kicked out of school, then you go to Ping Yi, clearly Ping Yi is not a good school, and then someone to actually, I believe you did very well for your university. So we'd love to hear that aspect, right, of your life, how from go F to A.
Yeah, so, I started in St. Stephen's Primary School, and I was in, I don't know by chance or whatever, but I was in the last class, 1F, 2F, and 3F. I didn't make it to 4F. So I actually got expelled in primary 3 for fighting and for torturing the Chinese teacher. I had no interest in studying whatsoever. And for some reason, I loved to fight at the time. I was very inspired by WWF at the time, So I was given a choice with 2 other friends, public caning or expulsion. So my 2 friends took the public caning. I said, throw me out, But my parents never knew that for many, many years. Because, well, first of all, my parents were never much involved in my life. They were always doing their own thing. They were very successful in their own careers. And they were going through separation. Eventually, they divorced when I was 12. And so I kind of bluffed them. I went home one day and I said, I want to change school. And I said, because my teacher's never around, and which is true. He was never around because he had some ailment. So we're always having relief teachers. So I said, to further my studies and to get the best, I want to change school, right? And so that's the story they bought. and they actually wrote to the principal and said my son wants to change school and all that. And that's how I got so-called expelled without them ever knowing until years later when I shared my story and they were like, what? So anyway, so then my mom had to find another school for me and she got me into Ngee Primary School, which I went in primary 4. And I think Ngee is a pretty good school now, but again, at that time, not really. It was not really a good school. And the next thing you know, within the 2 weeks, I fought with this guy, which is really not my fault because he irritated me. I punched him in the face. He had 5 stitches. And I was suspended for 2 weeks. And the principal was like, you just came to my school and you put this guy and you put this kid into the clinic. So is it do it again and you're out. So at that time I said, okay, fine. So I started to mellow down, calm down. But I still didn't study. I was totally, in Singapore, I say blur sotong. Didn't know what the hell was going on, right? So went for PSLE and I don't know how I passed. In fact, my grandma, I remember she was like, Adam passed. How did that happen? I managed to pass, scrape through. I got, I think, 190 plus for PSLE, which was barely scraping through. So at the time, we could choose 6 schools, I remember. And the first school, I put Raffles, RI, And second, I don't know, I put all the top schools, obviously I didn't get in. So I was sent to, so I was sent to Pingi, which I didn't even choose. Which at the time, like you said, was the bottom 3 schools in Singapore. So that's how I ended in Pingi. So Sec 1, also blur like sotong, didn't study, play, and stuff like that. And I still remember my maths teacher, Mr. Heng, I'm not sure if he's still alive, but he was really, really great guy. Was also the discipline master. And I remember he told my mom at that time, Mr. Heng said, your son doesn't even have primary 4 math level. And this was Sec 1. All right, so I was totally, blur, okay? And then my father, he sent me to this course called Super Teen. And it was interesting how he found out about the course. So we went to the Maldives on holiday. That was when he and my mom already divorced. So he actually my father went with his girlfriend and he brought me along. And it so happened that on that Maldives island, the only other Singaporean couple that was there was Dr. Tony Tan and his wife, who at the time was the Minister of Education. So my dad, they were actually knew each other already, right? But we were on an island together and my dad was like, my son's an idiot. What do I do? You're Minister of Education. Can you give me some advice, right? So he was saying that we sent our daughter, Patricia Tan, to this program called Super Teen. And it helped her a lot. Why do you send Adam? And he was like, what is Super Teen? So at that time, it was this motivational camp for students that motivate you, teach you study skills, which was very new at that time. No one has heard of it before. And my dad is very skeptical. How can it change my life for my son, right? But out of desperation, it's like, what have I got to lose? So he sent me for this course, which at the time was not cheap, was $800, I remember. And this was in 1987. $800 was a lot for a camp, But that camp changed my life. So my mentor who ran that camp, Ernest Wong, to today, I would always credit him. And without him, I wouldn't be here today. He's the first guy that really changed my life. So it was a 5-day camp. And again, there are many people who go through such camps. Some change, some don't change, because a lot depends on you. And for some reason, it worked on me. And one of the most powerful messages that he gave to me at the time, or to the whole class, was, we all have the same potential. And my stepsister was in Raffles Girls' School, gifted program, and I was in Pingi, right? and I felt like I was an idiot and she was this genius and all that. So he said to me, Adam, if your sister can be in the gifted program, you can be in the gifted program. I said, really? But I'm from Pingi, right? And, he started to psycho me with all these positive thinking. Because all my life, I grew up in a family where my father was always, you're an idiot, the typical Asian family, you're stupid. I was told that all my life, So here was this guy who said, you're a genius. I said, really? Right? And it's like, he said, it's all about strategy, right? If someone can do it, you can do it, but you have to learn the right strategy. So one of the things that I was exposed to is this thing called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which it's been around now since the 70s. But again, at that time, it was very, very new. And NLP is basically a technology where you learn to program your own mind through your thoughts and your words, and how do you shift your state, So I started learning all this stuff, and I was amazed by it. And then he taught us all these study skills where we learned mind mapping by Tony Buzan and super memory skills. And I was so inspired. I went home and I started to write down all my goals on this big poster. And I remember my first goal was top my school, which was Pingy, not too difficult, right? You know. And then my second goal was to get into the number 1 JC, which was Victoria Junior College at the time. And my third goal was to get into NUS. And the fourth goal was to make my first million by 26 years old. And how I got inspired was I read this book by Anthony Robbins at the time, who became a millionaire at 24. And he was a janitor. He dropped out of high school. And I said, if this guy can do it at 24, I can do it at 26. Give myself extra 2 years because of national service, right? So I put all these goals on my wall, and my parents, came in and they looked at it, or rather my dad and my mom was not around at the time, and they said, are you crazy or what? So initially they were not very encouraging, but they thought, okay, at least he's more positive. And my friends used to come to my house a lot to play. And they came into my room, saw that, and said, you mad or what, right? So everyone laughed at me. And one of the things I learned in this camp is you must make a public declaration. If you say you're going to top the school, you must tell everyone about it. If not, you won't do it. So I went around in school telling my teachers, I'm going to top the school, I'm going to go VJs. my teacher was like, I remember my teacher said this. She said, people from our kind of school can't go to JC. Right? You are being unrealistic. You should aim for Polytechnic, because at the time JC was known to be a lot more difficult than Polytechnic. And she said, in the history of Pingy, I don't think anyone made it to junior college except Tampines Junior College, which was at the time the bottom, right? So when I said, Victoria Junior College, you're mad, you're crazy. And one of the things I learned through NLP is that the more people say you can't do it, the more you use that to motivate yourself. So I was so crazy at that time that I studied non-stop. Until my parents got worried, they called Ernest, who was my mentor, and said, can you stop him from studying? He doesn't even go out. And I studied non-stop. I used all these mind maps. I was obsessed, basically. I worked my ass off. And so by Sec 3, I taught my class. And then Sec 4 topped the class. And then eventually I scored 8 points for O-levels. Minus 2 points because I went to VJ for the first 3 months. So in the end, I got net 6 points, which at that time was great. Nowadays, 6 points is no big deal. Nowadays, people get 0 points, right? But at my time, 6 points was one of the best, So I went to Victoria JC, continued studying really, really hard, and scored straight A's for A-levels, then NUS. Then NUS, I got into the Scholars Program, where I was the pioneer batch of the Scholars Program, which is the top 1%. So that is what inspired me to write my first book, right? I'm gifted, so are you. If an idiot like me could top NUS, anyone can do it. So that actually was what was my mission in the first part of my life, to inspire other students that you can do well. You just have to work hard and use the right strategies and be positive, right? Yeah, long story to your question.
A fantastic explanation. Yeah. But just curious, you mentioned that, in primary school you were like caught in a number of fights. So was it because you were bigger than most kids, right? That's why, you are comfortable, getting into fights? Or was there some trigger that made you want to, punch people and stuff like that?
I was obsessed with Bruce Lee and WWF. It's just it. No, I was not really big. I was, in fact, very skinny. If you look at my picture, I was a very skinny guy. I was relatively tall. But I love Bruce Lee, right? So I'll go around lie, and then I start to hoot them, right? And then WWF, I'll, grab someone, power drive them in the middle of the in the class and stuff like that, right? But it was not anger that I want to fight you, but it was fun. Let's fight, right?
So it's more like simulating a fight, or was it really getting...
It was fun, but it could get really hurt when there was blood involved and stuff like that, and you get a bruise and stuff like that. So I remember, there was once... And at that time, I remember especially Pingy, we had a lot of gangsters at that time, from Salakau, An Sun Tong, or in those days, you had a lot of secret societies, right? So I made a mistake of picking one of them. And the whole gang came after me, and really, it was really real fight at that time.
So it's you against multiple guys?
Yeah, but I had my own gang as well.
Okay.
Yeah, who I train in some Bruce Lee techniques.
Glad to hear. Yeah. And you also... you mentioned earlier the NLP. You mentioned that
it fuels like, fire in you to want to do well. So was that motivation more of, you don't want to look bad in front of the people that you've declared, or is it more of they don't believe you can do it, so let me prove them wrong? So what was the motivation behind your obsession?
It's a combination of both, actually. So, because all my life, I've never had any goals. My only goal was to watch TV, that's it. So when I went to this camp, I learned how to set goals. And once you have a goal, you get inspired to move towards it. And I can be a pretty obsessive person by nature. So the moment I had this goal, like top my school and go to NUS, it became an obsession. And of course, telling people about it and then they laughing at you, you can't do it, then that makes me even more determined to prove these people wrong. And since young, I always had this very rebellious nature. That's always been me. Where my parents say, don't touch the stove, I will touch the stove just because they say don't touch it. Right? I'm just like that. That's my nature. So the more people said I can't do it, the more I wanted to do it.
Got it.
It's just my nature. I'm just like that.
So you mentioned earlier that you were also very obsessive. So do you realize this obsessive trait before that super teen camp, or all along you know that you're really obsessive?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, so the camp...
Now that I'm talking to you and I look back, I realize that. But only on certain things. Like, for example, like the stock market. I'm obsessed with the stock market, right? But I'm not obsessed with other stuff. Like I'm not obsessed with, eating or stuff like that, Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned how you go from F to A students. So what do you remember maybe some of the more formative moments in your life? What were some of the more? I think super teen is definitely one of them. Is there any?
That was the turning point. That was the turning point. And I credited that in my first book, I'm Gifted, So Are You, and my other books as well.
Here you talk about earners a number of times. So what specifically does earners do? Is he like an NLP practitioner, or they just train kids? What?
Yeah, so at the time when he ran the course, he was an NLP practitioner. So there are 3 levels actually. You have NLP practitioner, NLP master practitioner, and NLP trainer level. There are actually 3 levels. So he was an NLP practitioner. And he never went for his master or trainer for some reason. I don't know why, right? So I remember that when I took my NLP practitioners in my 20s, and then I went for my master prac, and I went for my trainers level, I was like, Ernest, now I'm higher than you, right? And he kind of like laughed at me and all that. He went for the practitioner level. But it doesn't matter because really, to this day, he's one of the greatest trainers I've ever met. And he's a natural. So a lot of the ways I teach and I train was modeled after him initially. So there were 2 people I modeled after, Ernest and Tony Robbins.
So it's kind of like combining the best of both worlds and then make it what is uniquely
That's right.
yours.
And that's one thing I've done all my life. I realized I have this talent for copying people really well, of being able to model someone really well. And in fact, like how I hone my training style, I used to train a lot on stage. I don't anymore. I only speak on stage like once a year. But I used to love watching stand-up comedians. So I watched Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, and I realized that I also model a lot of their gestures, their tonalities, and the way they delivered punchlines. And that's how I learned to be a bit funny by modeling a lot of these stand-up comedians. So I kept modeling people who are the best in things, right? So there's some people who are, like Tony Robbins, really good at inspiring, motivating you through his tone. So I modeled that from him. But making you laugh, then that will be, say, your Chris Rock or Eddie Murphy. So everyone is great at something. So you want to model the best of that person.
Interesting perspective. Didn't get to hear that from you personally, because I think you didn't really share like how you model your stage speaking, or maybe I might have missed that.
Actually, I teach this. I taught this in my NLP courses for many years about how I model.
All right. So uni, maybe take a step back. In Singapore, you have to serve the army before you get into uni. I believe you're an officer back in the army. Any big lessons, that you had from there, while serving the army?
Actually, it's interesting. Well, I don't even know how I got into OCS because I was not very fit. Yeah, I was never very fit. And that's why I never got into sports a lot. I couldn't run at all. And in fact, during basic military training, I remember I had a tough time even passing the 2.4 kilometers. And to pass in the end, I remember that they got someone to push me over the last, I think, 400 meters. Literally push me from behind. And they call that cheating. They really pushed me to get me to pass, And so I don't know how I got to OCS. I guess because of my great results. When you get very good results for your A-levels, like straight A's, I think it's like almost an automatic you get to OCS, even though you're terrible at your physical fitness. But I went through that interview, remember, and they asked me, would you like to go to OCS? And I said, well, I don't mind. I didn't say, yeah, yes. I was like, okay, right? And when I went to OCS, initially it was a torture because of the physical stuff, which I couldn't take, I remember, And I tell you something funny. My basic military training, you see, usually in BMT, you go for your road march. You have your outfield, right? My BMT had none of that. And I found out later the reason why. I was in Nee Soon camp, and what happened was the company, what do you call that? The OC, the OC of my company, his recruit jumped down, committed suicide the batch before mine. And I think he was under investigation and stuff like that, right? And also compounded by the fact that I think they pushed that person too much. And after that, they got really scared and they didn't dare to kind of like push anymore. So when my batch came in, they had all these issues. So because of that, the road march was cancelled, the field trip was cancelled. So I went through BMT with no road march, with no field trip. I was a totally unequipped BMT soldier. And I got thrown to OCS. And I still remember that the first day of OCS, when we met our commanders, I got a shock of my life. I went to Sierra Company. The OC was a commando ranger. And the 4 instructors were all commandos. And they're all nuts. They're all crazy. I remember they were all crazy. And the first thing they said was, your weekend is not it's not entitlement. It's a privilege. And I remember they said, everyone must get a goal for IPPT, the physical fitness. If not, confinement until you do. I said, oh my God. Oh, I'm dead, man. I'm dead. But they trained us up. Every day was a running. Eventually, I got a goal. I don't know how the heck I got a goal. And again, a lot of the NLP stuff came in where I said, I got to go home to see my girlfriend, right? And that was another barrier it broke in me because I never thought I could run. I was never physically fit. And here I was running the 2.4 kilometers in goal because of that threat from the OC that I'm going to kill all of you and I'm going to go home, right? So that was another breakthrough. And I was never a leader in a sense that in school, I was never a prefect, I was never a monitor. I had never been in a leadership position all my life. And I didn't want to because I was always the bad boy, if you will, right? And I would really credit OCS really for teaching me leadership skills. So looking back, I'm one of those strange people who says the army really helped me. And I really like the army because I really like my friends. In service term and pro term, they call it, I was seconded to the Air Force, where I became Air Defense Artillery Officer. Now they call it GBAD, Ground-Based Air Defense. So it's a very small team of officers that were trained on this weapon system. Until today, we are still really great friends. We still hang out today, me and my group of those people. And most of them are regulars, actually. There were very few NSF. Most of them were regulars. So I loved it there. So I got to credit. That really taught me leadership skills, how to lead, and gave me the confidence to lead people, actually.
Wow, fantastic. So maybe now let's kind of like move there. So kind of like your personal life, your early 20s. That I know you got into business at a pretty early age, right? So maybe could you share how you got first started case of business?
Okay, so besides fighting, I was always obsessed with making money. Always obsessed with how to make money. And one of the reasons was because my parents never gave me much money except enough for food and drinks. And they were always like, well, my dad especially, right? He was always like, you want something, go buy it yourself. Don't ask me for money. And
so just a bit of context. So your father, is he more of like, doesn't seem like the poor kind?
No, my father's well off. My father ran his own advertising business. He's well off.
But he chose not to give you all the money.
Yeah, because he didn't want to spoil me. He saw how his friends spoiled the kids and he says, no, you're not getting... So I never got more than any of my friends. So despite coming from a relatively well-to-do family, I mean, I was from Pingi, all my friends lived in HDB flats. I was the only guy in a big bungalow with a swimming pool, So they all came to my house like, wow, And I was like... But I never got more money than them. In fact, sometimes I got less than them. So I was always, since young, so I was always driven to make my own money because I was obsessed with, at that time, Star Wars toys and Mars toys. You know, in all this, this is Mars cartoon, maybe before your time, right? So I love to collect all these Mars toys and I was also into magic. I like to buy magic tricks and perform magic. But he wouldn't buy any for me. In fact, he would say, don't waste your money, don't buy it. So I remember I had to go to the store and buy it and hide it in my bag to bring it home. And they never knew I had the toys till much later. So I had to make all the money myself to buy those toys. So since and this started, I don't know if I should say this, but when I was in primary school, I remember my first entrepreneurial venture was dubbing blue tapes. Don't ask me how I got the blue tapes. And selling them to my friends. So that's how I made a buck, right?
Yeah.
So that was when I was like 9, dubbing blue tapes and selling to my friends.
What is dubbing blue tapes?
Okay, you know what blue tapes, right?
Oh, blue tapes. Okay.
Okay, you know,
Got it.
blue tapes.
Now I understand.
Yeah,
Blue
okay.
tapes, okay.
We used to call them Smurf. So I go to school and say, you want some Smurf, man? You want some Smurf? I got some Smurf, right? Yeah. So
At 9 years old, wow.
At 9 years old, right? So yeah. But I never got caught for that. So that was my first venture. And then, let me see. So I started making money also when I was in Ping. One of the ways was I did door-to-door sales selling stationery for my friend's father. My friend's father owned a stationery shop. And during the holidays, he would hire my friend and me, this guy called Mark, and we would sell stationery door-to-door to corporations. And so that's how I got my first sales experience. I was like 14 years old at the time. All right. And then at 15, I started my first mobile disco company, which was called Deaf Beat Productions, I remember. So how I started that was, I was very into music. I love music a lot, but I can't sing. So I love DJing at that time. And so what happened was, one of my first ventures was throwing disco parties. In the old days, we call them functions. I don't know where, maybe it's before your time, okay? Because we were too young to go to discos. So what a lot of people did was at that time was we hosted our own disco parties at, condominiums. They have these function halls. We would rent the function halls and we would throw disco parties. So I started doing that at about 14 years old. Now, I didn't live in a condo, so I had to rent my friend's condo. We were like partners, and then we would throw a disco party. And then I threw a disco party at my grandma's house as well, which was rent-free. It was really cool. So what I did was I hired a mobile disco company. I remember their name. It was called Pack Jam in those days. And we paid them $350 a night to come to set up all the disco equipment, the helicopter lights, the smoke machine, the music and all that. And then we went to supermarket to buy drinks. And then we would charge, I think at that time we would charge I can't remember, it was like $5 per head for people to come to our disco party. And I made pretty good money so I did that almost every other weekend. And so I was running these disco parties, making pretty good money at 14 years old. I started to become friends with these mobile disco people. And I watched how they spun the records. In those days, vinyl records, right? And I talked to them. I learned about the business. And so I started with my first turntable and my first equalizer, amplifier, and speaker. I started learning how to jam at home. And so I got a part-time job at Razors Entertainment as a DJ and a roadie, carrying speakers and all that. So this was 14 years old. So that explains why I didn't do my studies as well, spending all my time DJing, right? And by 15, I saved up enough money through the disco parties, which was, at the time, was a lot of money. I saved up $2,500. And with that, I bought my first mobile disco equipment. It was this big coffin in those old days. Big coffin, we call it a coffin, with 2 turntables, a mixer, an equalizer, an amplifier, and 2 PV speakers. $2,000 for that first set. And then I got 3 of my friends to become partners with me. And we started our first mobile disco business. And we charged the exact same price. We charged $350 at the time. And so we got quite a number of gigs, right? We did birthday parties and stuff like that. So I was the MC, I was a DJ, And I was also a magician. During some of the parties, I would do some magic as well to throw in kind of like bonus for the clients, right? Yeah. And then that continued all the way to junior college. And in JC, we had a breakthrough. We did our first corporate gig, which at the time was, I think, $8,000 a night. Wow. All right. But no, we didn't really make a lot from there. It was... So I remember at the time, we were doing small birthday parties, you know. And then one day, I can't remember how it happened, but one of my friend's father, he ran a company. I can't remember now, it was so many years ago. And he said, I need an event management company to run our dinner and dance. So my friend tells him that Adam runs an event management company. Now here I am with a very basic set of equipment that can only do small birthday parties. But this guy was like a company or doing a D&D, you know? So how am I going to pull that off? I don't have the equipment to do a D&D. So I went to Razors Entertainment, you know, the one I DJ'd for. They were a big company at the time. I don't know if they're still around, right? And the boss is called Jack. And I said, Jack, I could have this Kang Tao, quite Kang Tao at the time, opportunity to close a big corporate deal, which we knew was like $10,000. But I said, I don't have the expertise. I can't run that kind of event. I don't have the equipment. Jack said, I send my best salesman with you. You close the deal, all right? You sub to us. In the background, we provide all the equipment. We split 50-50.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So we did that. So he sent his best sales guy, this guy called Roger, went down with me. We pitched the deck. I was only 15 years old, right? We pitched, we won it $8,000. I split with that company. They provided all the equipment, you know, it was more sophisticated equipment. And that's how I learned to run my first dinner and dance. And from then on, we slowly built out our funds. We bought more equipment, and then we ran our own dinner and dance after that. So, in fact, I ran that. I stopped during army time, of course, couldn't continue. But in university, we continued that business. And in fact, I monopolized. Back in university, we had what we called jam and hops. Universities had a lot of these what we call jam and hops in those days. I don't know if they still have it right now. Jam and hops were kind of like parties that were thrown by the different halls. NUS, NTU, and SMU was not around at that time. And I monopolized the business. It was always, call Adam. Adam would run all the jam and hops. And I made a pretty good living doing that in uni.
So maybe just to backtrack a little bit, you mentioned you first started at the function room in someone's condominium. So where do you get your first customers? Hey, just go here for this function event.
From my school, from Ping Yi, and from the nearby schools. What was the other school? Katong Convent. Yeah, we had some girls from Katong Convent. We sold tickets.
So you go down to the school and sell them tickets.
Yeah,
we
sold tickets.
Event.
We sold tickets.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then from then on, you kind of like do bigger. Then I guess the uni was already word of mouth, not just find Adam.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you were kind of like monopolizing that uni gig already?
When I was in university.
Oh, okay. So when you are still studying.
When I was a student, I was running this by the side. And that's why, in school, I never joined any CCA, co-curricular activities. I was never in any hall, never in any club at all. Why? Because I was running my own business, right? I had no time for all this stuff. So that was my CCA. That was my club.
Okay. So you like top the cohort and still making good money. Wow, life is pretty at that point in time.
Yeah, but I worked really, really hard. It was like, really, really... There was no... I mean, I was not like the typical kid who went out to party and all that. It was either study, or running my mobile disco. And concurrently, I was also training with that. So I was actually running two businesses, the mobile disco business and the training business. So what happened was, after I attended Super Teen under Ernest, who, like I said again, he changed my life, I went back as a volunteer. So what happens is that they get you to go back as a volunteer. They call it a resource at the time. So that the future camps, when they train new kids, you go back as a volunteer to kind of like help the new kids. So I went back as a volunteer resource for 7 years. And for the first 4 years, it was volunteer. I was not paid at all. But he started to pay me and pay some of the senior coaches, right? And eventually, I remember it was quite interesting. I asked him one day, I said, could I teach a session? And it's like, what? Because, no one ever taught us. He was the only teacher. So he said, okay, go ahead, right? And I went up there for, I think he gave me like a 20-minute slot. And I went up there and I was able to teach quite well. And so that's how I became his co-trainer in Super Teen. And one day he was not feeling well. I think he had some chest pains and all that. And there was a very, very important session that only he could do. But because he was like, right, I did a session and he realized that, wow, Adam can actually do what I'm doing. So that's how we became co-trainers. And I helped him to build up the business in Singapore. Because at the time, he only ran the camps during school holidays. And to go, you have to pay $800. But I say, Ernest, why don't we take the camp and bring it to all the schools in Singapore? And we tap on the EduSave grant. Of course, we can't charge $800 in the school, but let's charge $50. But because of the mass, the volume, it's worth it. So I started taking his course and selling it to all the schools. I remember we charged $50 a day, but we ran a 3-day camp, which we sold at a package of, I think, $120. So I helped him to build up that business. So let me think. That was in JC and that was in university. Yeah, so I was busy training the Super Teen course with him. I was running the mobile disco business and studying like crazy.
Wow. 48 hours a day for you then.
Yeah, 48 hours a day. I slept like 4 hours, probably. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, right, that you were working with Ernest for the first 4 years. You worked for him.
7 years. No, let me think how long. My God, because so I went to his camp at 13 years old, and I started volunteering at 14, and then I was then a volunteer and a trainer all the way up to I really got to think of the dates. All the way up to I think 2000. The year 2000, where I was 26. Yeah, 26. So yeah, there was more than that.
So
when I mentioned the first 7 years, that was for free. I didn't get paid for 7 years.
I was curious.
Yeah, that was for free. Yeah.
Why for free? I mean, like what entices you to work for free when you're driven by money to make money?
I was number one very grateful to him because he really changed my life, and number two, I saw how powerful this was, the study skills and all. And I wanted to teach, and I had this passion for teaching. I always had this passion for teaching. And because remember that all my life when I was young, people said, Adam, you're stupid, and that. So for the first time when I stood on stage and I could teach this group of students how to study, I felt like God. Literally, I was like, oh my God, they're listening to me. I'm someone important. So it made me feel like a somebody. And from that day, I love teaching.
Okay, so it wasn't.
I mean, you teach yourself. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, you feel good. Wow, I'm the guru, right? Yeah.
Okay, so at that age, was not only just driven by money, but you felt that sense of appreciation and the purpose of teaching.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the early days, I was making money in my mobile disco only, and my magic show, right? And that was a volunteer. But eventually, then that became very lucrative as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also maybe just to go back a little bit further in time, you talk about 12 years old. So you may or may not want to share this because you mentioned that your parents divorced, right? So I'm curious to hear, has that divorce have any impact on you as a child when you're just 12 years old, which is, primary 6 PSLE that year?
Any impact? Actually, interestingly, not really. Because I was never really that close to my parents in a sense that, now my mom was a high-flying career woman. She was the editor of Her World magazine. And my father was running his advertising business. So they were both very successful in what they did, So they were not really involved in my life at all. In fact, they didn't even know what I was doing most of the time. I was always with the maid. I was what you call a latchkey child of the 1980s, right? But I was closer to my mom than my dad at that time because my dad was a very fierce guy. Every time he opened his mouth, he's like, "You idiot!" right? Whack me. In those days, dads would whack their kids, right? And my mom would spoil me. Don't beat him and stuff like that. But so they split when I was 12. And my mom, I remember she came back one day and she said, I'm leaving for Australia. So, why? And she said, because my mom was seeing this guy who's Australian. I mean, they were both seeing other people. Okay. So suddenly out of the blue, she said, I'm leaving. And so she left for Australia for the next 20 years, where she remarried her boyfriend at the time. I don't know. I was actually cool, interestingly enough, because I was not that close to them. I was like, okay, his mom's not here, right? So I was with my dad, which was a bit scary at first because I was not very close to him initially. Now I'm very, very close. We're very, very close friends now. But at the time, I was scared to death of him. And then now he was the only parent, right? So I had no one to spoil me because last time my mom was the buffer, right? He would say, no! And my mom would, give me stuff when he's not there. But now it was all him. So I stayed with my dad. And then he had a lot of girlfriends, which was really cool. He brought me on all his dates. And then you say, how? This one can or not? Can or not? I say, the other one sexier lah, pa. Yeah, literally, right? But eventually he remarried. So I got a stepmom, my stepmom was previously married. So she had a daughter who became my stepsis. And like I said, she was in Raffles Girls' School gifted program, which made me feel even more stupid at the time. But looking back, here's the interesting thing, right? People would say, do you have any regrets in your life? And I've never had any regrets because I'm the kind of person who believes that the best things we have in life are often the results of the so-called the worst things in the past. Like, for example, if I could go back to my younger self and say, Adam, from primary 1, study hard, would I do that? No, I won't. Because I realized something. If I had done well all my life and I went to Raffles and stuff like that, right, I would never have been sent to super team if I had done well. Remember, I was sent to super team because I was such a miserable failure. If I didn't go to super team, I would never have learned NLP. I would never have learned how to be on stage. And today, I won't be here. I'll probably be just another corporate guy in an office. You know what I'm saying? If my parents had a loving relationship, if they were always with me, if they were always nurturing me, maybe I would not have this rebellious streak. If my parents gave me what I wanted, maybe I wouldn't have the motivation to build my own business. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like you watch Back to the Future, where Marty McFly goes back. He wanted to save his father from being hit by the car. You know that movie, right? Mm-hmm. And because of that, the parents didn't meet. So that's why I always tell people, and remind my children, I say that whatever seems bad right now could be the best thing that happened to you. So it's not the event that determines your destiny. It's how you respond to the event. If you respond in a positive way, learn from it, and take positive action, the worst things in life will become the best things in the future.
I believe you mentioned something similar in your book as well, like, during financial crisis, people losing their job. But hey, that's an opportunity to start something on your own, get someone, better jobs and stuff like that, which is just similar to what you just said.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned through both NLP and a lot of these philosophical teachings is that everything happens for a reason. It's a belief. Whether you choose to believe it or not, I choose to believe it because it helps me. That behind every adversity is the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. It's whether you choose to believe it. It works for me, so I choose to believe it.
All right. And I understand in business, you have another co-founder that I think some people might not be aware, Patrick, right? So between you and Patrick, so what was your role in the business?
So I met Patrick when we were in university together. We were in the same project group. And so Patrick was in the mobile disco business.
Oh,
there were 2 mobile disco businesses. The first one was the one I started, which was Def Jam. That was the secondary school one. Then in university, we restarted a new one called Create Soul Entertainment with new shareholders and all. So Patrick was in the Create Soul Entertainment one. So that's how I knew he could work. And he knew I could work, and we could work together because we are both running the event management company in university. So after we graduated, he went to Singapore Press Holdings as a management trainee, where he stayed there for, I think, 3 years. And then I continued with my training business on my own. And after that, I influenced him. I said, why don't you just leave Singapore Press Holdings and join me full-time to run the training business? So that's when he joined me. So we've been partners ever since. So the thing about 2 of us is that we're very complementary. Okay. Now, I tell people that for any business to succeed, you need 4 personalities. Now, the 4 personalities can exist in one person, but it's very rare. Okay, or they could exist in 2 people. Okay, personality number 1, you need to have a creator, or we call it a visionary. So this is a person who comes with all the crazy ideas. All right, like Steve Jobs is a creator, is a visionary. Bill Gates and so on and so forth. So you need a creator, a person who inspires, right? But not enough. You need a second personality, the person we call the manager. The manager is someone who is able to execute the crazy dream, who's very meticulous, who's able to organize and manage people and stuff like that, right? Manager. The third guy you need a specialist, someone who specializes in the task at hand. So let me give you an example. Let's say you want to start a restaurant. Who's the specialist? The specialist is a chef, someone who can actually cook, right? The creator is the person who will dream out how many outlets, what's the branding we use, and the big dream, Then the manager is the person who is able to manage the restaurant. You need the 3 personalities, right? The 4th personality is you need a deal maker. A deal maker is someone who likes to go karaoke, meet friends, and make connections with people, to get connections with suppliers and all. You need these 4 personalities. Now, for me, I would say I'm the creator personality. I love to create stuff. I'm a visionary, and I'm a specialist in a sense that I'm the teacher. But I suck as a manager. I know that. I suck as a manager. Now, if you force me to do it, I can do it, but I'm not that good at it, and I don't enjoy doing it. I don't enjoy managing people. I don't enjoy project management. I don't like it, right? Now, Patrick loves it. He loves managing people. He loves running projects. Okay? I hate socializing. I'm quite an introverted person once I'm off stage. Patrick is an extreme extrovert. He throws parties in his house all the time. I've never thrown a party in my entire life in my house. Okay, so he's a deal maker. So you see that great fit that we have. So since day one, I've been the creator. I've been the specialist who trains other trainers, who has the big crazy idea. But Patrick executes everything. He manages the staff. He hires the staff. He trains the staff. He manages all the projects. And he's a deal maker. He's the guy that knows everyone. He's a networker. Okay, so without him, I won't be here. In fact, without him, I may still be a one-man show and not a $25 million organization, right? But converse is true. Without me, he may not be here. He may be still stuck as an employee in SPH, right? We make a great symbiotic relationship. So when we first started, I was a CEO and he was the COO. But after 7 years in the business, it's now our 22nd year in business. So after the first 7 years, I realized, what am I doing as a CEO? It's only by name. I'm actually not the CEO because he's managing the people, he's hiring the people, I'm the guy on stage. So I said, Pat, you should be the CEO, not me. So he took over as CEO in 2009, which was 7 years after we started the Adam Khoo Learning Technologies Group. And then he ran the show after that. Yeah, since then.
So given this complementary relationship, what if were there times maybe you guys couldn't agree or something, then who kind of has the final say?
Yeah, so the funny thing and the great thing, I'm so blessed, is that we have never had an argument in 22 years.
Wow.
I mean, we've got different points of view, definitely different, but we've never argued. And one reason is also personality. The two of us, now we have different interests. He loves fishing, I don't like fishing, I like golf. We have different interests, but our personalities are very similar in the sense that we are both very easygoing. There's some people who like to count 10 cents, 20. We don't like that, at all. Okay, and we have got complete trust over each other. He pays himself whatever salary he wants. I don't question. I pay myself whatever I want. He don't question. And I never question, you do more work, I do. Never been like that. And whenever we have a difference in opinions, which is very rare, we would both rationalize it. Okay, the pros and cons. And after that, it's yeah, true, you're right. Okay, let's move on.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the next question, right? You talk about, you guys doing very well, right, financially, right? And I think last time we met, you also shared something really interesting that you guys were doing 8 figures a year. Then you mentioned that, after that, the profit at the end of the day, can you guess how much is it?
Yeah.
$0,
Correct,
right?
correct, yeah,
but clearly today things have changed a lot. So what happened back then, right? From profit of high revenue, $0 to now higher profits and now, higher revenue and now higher profits.
Yeah, so we started our business in 2002. So now it's 2004. So that's, is it 22 years?
2002, 2024, 22 years, yes.
22 years, okay. Now, prior to 2019, so from 2022 to 2018, that's 16 years, right? We hardly make any money. At the most we made a year was like $200,000, which is crazy given our revenue was 12, 13, 14 million dollars. So there are a few reasons for that. The first reason was that prior to 2018, all our courses were physical courses. We ran it in our training center in Keppel Towers, in hotels and all that. And so the cost was very, very high. It was very high cost to run. Our overheads at that time, I remember, were over 600,000 a month. Overheads. Now, this doesn't include trainers' fees, which are variable costs. This is purely overheads, which is the staff salary, not including trainers' fees, staff salary, rental, 600K a month. Okay? Now, in addition to that, we paid very high trainers' fees because trainers are paid on variable. Not just me. We had, at the time, like 14 trainers, right? Give you an example. Our competitor who ran training companies, their trainer would earn, 4K a month. This was years ago. Back from 2002 to 2018, right? Our competitors' trainers would earn 4 or 5K a month. My trainers were earning 10 to 20K a month. So we paid our trainers damn well. But of course, there's a cost to it. So because my company was paying the trainers so well, paying them 4 times the market rate and being in Keppel Towers, 600 a month, we didn't make any money. So we are turning over, 13, 14 million, but in the end, profit, 0. Or certain years we lost money, or at the most we made 100 grand. So that was then at the time. But again, to be fair, we paid ourselves very well also. So we paid ourselves good salaries and all that. So, but the business itself never made money, right? And everything changed in 2019, 2020. So what happened was, in 2016, I had this crazy idea, why don't we teach our courses online? Now this is 2016, before COVID. COVID was 2020, right? So at 2016, people were like, who's gonna buy courses online? No one has done it before, right? So we started doing that initially, and I started my YouTube video at the time as well. And I still remember my staff and even my friends was like, what are you going to do on YouTube? I said, I'm going to teach investing in the US markets. And they said, why would the Ang Mo, which is the Western guy, listen to a Chinaman teaching US markets? Who's going to listen to you, right? Because at the time, if I'm not wrong, I think there were hardly any Singaporean YouTubers around. True. I don't know if you were around at the time yet. I'm not sure. So I started the YouTube channel, and then it started to gain a following. And then I started to do my sell my courses online, pre-recorded courses. Now, initially in 2016, of course, it was very slow to take off because there was no COVID. People were like, why should I buy an online course when I can go to the physical thing? So it was very slow, but it got the ball rolling. And the online courses made up, 1% of our revenue. And by 2019, which was still before COVID, it was still about 3% of the revenue. So it was insignificant, but at least it was something coming in. And then COVID hit. And you know what happened? When COVID hit, we were all trapped at home. No one could go out. And then suddenly, the online courses took off, which were already there since 2016. And it was pretty amazing. So in 2020, we made more profits in 1 year than we made in 18 years. In 18 years, okay? So one reason was because everyone was buying the online courses. Number 2, we had zero cost, right? There was no venue cost. There was no manpower cost. It was pure profits at the time. And so even after COVID, the question is, why do we go back to that old model, right? Because with the old model, physical teaching, at that time, I traveled to 3 cities every week. I went to Manila, I went to Jakarta, I went to KL, 3 cities every week. I was on stage easily 5 days a week speaking on stage. I could only have dinner with my family once a week if I was lucky. I hardly saw them, So when COVID hit, I told my wife, I said, maybe you were the curse, because she said, if only my husband could spend more time with the family, right? And then COVID, as I say, it's all your fault. And because of COVID, I spent every day with them. And then, so after COVID's over, I never went back to my old life. So now I don't speak on stage anymore, except for once a year in Marina Bay Sands, coming up on the 20th of January. So it totally changed the business model. So now the online makes up, I'm just roughly guessing, it makes up probably 70% of our revenue, but 99% of the profits.
Because the
other 30% of the revenue comes from our youth business, the train where we train kids. But it's not very profitable. The profits are very thin,
Because physical work still involved.
Physical work, right? So in terms of profitability, 99% are from the online courses. And if the online courses, we now reach people from 140 countries. Whereas the physical one was only, if I'm in Singapore, it's only Singaporeans. If I'm in Malaysia, it's only Malaysians. Yeah.
So that now that you're largely based online, you don't have this so-called physical connection back then, where you're on stage.
Yeah.
So do you kind of miss that feeling, right, where you're not now you're just online instead of being on stage, and then you don't have that close connection and proximity?
Yeah. Once in a while, I still miss it. But then when I think of all the hassle and the cost and all that, it's a sacrifice that it's okay to take. Now I still teach live 4 times a year. Live as in I'm live teaching, but via Zoom. But I do my best to make it as interactive as possible, where I imagine, although it's in Zoom, but they're there. So it's like, I ask questions, they answer, I interact. So it's still quite interactive, but still not the same as being physically there.
Okay. And you mentioned that there's a once a year event. Is that like kind of like a teaching, or is it just like a 3-4 hour thing, then it just came over from there?
It's called the Outlook event, where I give my outlook for the year. So yeah, in fact, it's 20th of January, Marina Bay Sands, coming up on Saturday, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. It's a full day event there. Yeah.
Okay.
So once a year, I'm physically on stage.
Okay. Finally, you still going to get back what's up, guys? Let's go.
Yeah. For once a year.
So I want to ask the next question, what painful mistakes have you made in business, and what have you learned from it?
I would say one of the mistakes, looking back, was having a lot of physical assets. So, like I said, our days when we were at Keppel Towers, that was about for 11 years. If you look at my business, we look so successful because we had the whole ground floor of Keppel Towers, right? I think it was like 20,000 square feet. Wow, so impressive. And you're not making money, right? Because where did all the money go to? Rental, So I learned that that's why now our philosophy has always been now asset light. We don't want to own or much physical stuff, and we go fully online. Okay. Now, of course, I look back and say, why couldn't I have done this earlier? The answer is maybe I couldn't, because pre-COVID it may not have worked. People were not primed to learn online. So it's one of those things like regrets. Why regret? Because looking back, maybe it couldn't have been done anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think since now we are on topic of business, we can now do a transition to talk about Piranha Profits, which is
Sure.
the company which you're so active on. Okay, so I think you're in the business of investing, trading, and I think one of the very common question that I get myself, they get is they'll say things like, Rainer, why sell courses if you can make money from trading? So for me, I always used to say, I just upfront say, trading, it's an avenue where you need money to make money. If $1,000 you do 20% a year, it's only $200, not enough. But if you have $1 million, there's a difference. So I tell them, say, I teach courses, right? I raise funds for my own account. It's a win-win. So that's kind of like, why I teach. And also because it's fun. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I believe you get that questions a lot as well.
Yeah. So, it's like exactly what I said earlier on when you asked me, Adam, why were you volunteering for 7 years when you're not being paid? Because I love it. Because, I always like to joke that when I'm on stage, everyone listens to me and I feel great that people listen to you. I go home, my wife don't listen to me, right? So number one, I love teaching. And if today I had $100 billion, would I still teach? Yeah. I would not change anything in my life. I would still teach. And yeah, you get some people online that say, you make more money in selling courses than investing or trading, right? Well, let me put it this way. Last year, and I published all my statements on social media, so you can check all my interactive broker statements. So last year, I gained 2.1 million US dollars on my US portfolio. My Singapore portfolio is up about, mainly from dividends, it's up about $300,000, right? So 2.1 million US, if you convert to Sing, I think it's like 2.7 million Sing plus 300,000. So I made 3 million last year from the financial markets, all right? How much did I make from my selling courses, okay? Yes, we make a lot more selling courses, correct? But don't forget, what I make selling courses, I've got over 50 staff. So after I pay all my staff salaries and their bonuses, and by the way, they get paid very, very well, right? Plus, we still have to pay rental, all that. How much I get back, I think it's, it's less than what I made on the markets, right? And now, but even if I could make more selling courses than trading, why not? Right? Because I always like to joke, if I'm very good at selling chicken rice, would I teach you how to make chicken rice? No. Because if you set up a store next to me, you may take away my business. I wouldn't teach you my trade secret, right? But investing is different. I can teach you how I invest. You can make a lot of money, but I don't make less because the market is so big. So there's no detriment to me teaching you this stuff. It doesn't make me make less. Yeah.
Right. And so curious, like, so for Piranha Profits, I'm guessing, right, that you will probably rely more on your organic traffic compared to your paid ads, because I don't see much ads from your site. So am I right to kind of assume that actually a lot of the business is all from organic, like YouTube, you know?
No, we do a lot of paid ads as well.
Oh, paid ads,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't see our paid ads?
I don't see it as often as
Do you turn off your...
No, I don't.
okay,
I don't.
okay.
I see from time to time, right? But
Okay, we only advertise during major events. So we only have 2 major events a year. July and November.
what
July is the mid-year sale event.
Okay, yeah.
And November is Black Friday, which we call the black market event. So we only advertise during those 2 events throughout the whole year.
Okay, and let's say between organic and paid, which one kind of like, generates more money for your site?
I'll say it's about 50-50.
50-50?
Yeah,
Interesting.
50-50, yeah.
Okay. So I understand that on Piranha Profits, what's interesting is that you're not the only person teaching. You have, Elson, right? The prop trader. You have Bang, right? The options guy. So how did these different educators come about to join you?
So Bang attended my Wealth Academy course. So Wealth Academy is where I teach investing. So he attended the Wealth Academy course, my God, I can't remember, probably 10 years ago, right? So he started as my student in the investing course, okay? But he learned options on his own from someone else, right? And then in the community, because my community is very close, we chat all the time online and stuff like that, right? So I then began to notice this guy called Bang, who is one of my students, who keeps posting his results every year, and he's making a lot of money, and he's making a lot of money primarily using options, yeah? Now, I learned options myself about 20 years ago, and I did start trading some options at that time, but I never really got into it because it was not very profitable for me at the time because I was trading it wrongly. Like most people, when you first start, how do you trade options? You buy options. You think the stock going up, you buy call option. You think the stock going down, you buy put option, right? And if you do that, buying options, once in a while you can make a lot of money, but in the long run, it's hard to make money because, as you know, options are decaying assets. And most options expire worthless. So it's a very low probability game. So I always say that when you buy options, it's like going to the jackpot machine and playing the jackpot. Once in a while, you get a jackpot, but over time, you tend to lose everything, right? So that was my mistake initially. And then I stopped trading options. I say, it doesn't really work, right? So I then focused on stocks. And then after many, many years, I saw Bang consistently year after year making so much on options. So I had a coffee with him. And then he shared with me, he said, Adam, the way to make money in options is being a net seller of options, not a net buyer. And that changed my perspective. So in a way, I learned options before, but it took my student Bang to realign me to the way to trade it properly. And so when I started to trade options differently, right, where now I started to focus on selling options, I focus, for me, 99% of the time, I'm selling put options. And I do it almost every day. Almost every day, I'm selling options, right? And that's how I started getting very, very good, consistent profits from options. And I said, Bang, let's do a course on this. So that's how we started the options course in Pyramid of Profits, right? Elson, same thing. Elson attended my course also 10 years ago. Or 8, I can't remember, right? And then he disappeared. Never heard from him again. And then after many, many years, he messages me. He says, Adam, I've been a prop trader. And you taught me the basics, but I've been with this prop firm. I did really well. He showed me his trophy. He's one of the top prop traders around. And he said, I want to leave the prop desk. I want to do full-time trading. But at the same time, I thought, hey, I can teach as well. So that's how he came into the fold.
Wow.
So they're all ex-students.
Okay. And recently, I think there's one more you added, is the guy in real estate.
Jeff, yeah.
Ex-student as well?
Yeah. Also ex-student, also over 10 years ago.
Wow.
Right.
Amazing.
So Jeff was, he was an analyst at the time, specializing in tech and Asian stocks. Then he was a corporate banker, private banker. And then he actually came to me a few years ago. He was still a private banker with OCBC, Bank of Singapore. And his dream was to start his own hedge fund. So initially he was like not sure, and he came to me for advice. So I kind of like urged him. I said, Jeff, you're not getting much younger. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it, right? So I helped him to kind of like take that step to quit and become a full-time money manager. So now he's running his hedge fund, plus he's managing money. I think he's managing over 120 million right now, doing very well. He did really, really well. So I'm really, really happy for him. Yeah.
So I'm sure that...
And he also manages his property fund, which I'm a major investor. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you probably have quite a number of students reaching out to you, say, hey Adam, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah with you. So I guess you have a vetting process. You don't just randomly take in students to come and work together with you. So what are some of the criteria that you would look for before you say yes? Okay,
so first of all, usually you find that people who eventually join me, some of them may not be trainers first. Some of them may not be comfortable training, but they are coaches. So we have a lot of coaches in the community, where as I train, they are doing one-on-one coaching, or they are helping to answer questions during the course. So I've got another great guy. His name is YY. Now YY, he's not as well known as the rest, but he's one of my best traders. In fact, almost every year his returns are higher than me. All right, and he's a pretty interesting guy because YY joined my company. I started in 2002. He joined, I think, in 2005. So he's been with me for almost 20 years. But he joined as a math teacher. He was teaching maths for the kids at the Adam Khoo Learning Center. He knows nothing about finance, zero background in finance. But then along the way, he took the Wealth Academy course I think it was about 6 years ago now. All right. And from there, he learned options from Bang. And today he's one of the best traders. But he's not interested in training. He says it's just not his thing, right? But he does one-on-one coaching. So he does one-on-one coaching for our community. Okay. Now, to answer that question, how do we get people in? Now, usually we know because these are the people who already in the community, they contribute a lot already. They're the ones helping to answer questions. So from there, we already know, hey, this guy's helping the community. He's answering questions. He knows his stuff. Now, to us, we have got a few important criteria. Number one is track record. They need to show at least a 3-year track record of having positive returns and ideally outperforming the market. Number one. Number two, they must be able to teach. Some people are very good traders. They are very good at making money, but they can't teach. Right? They talk, you don't understand what they're talking about, right? So they must be able to deliver and teach. And of course, the third thing is, this is something that's hard to quantify, but when you talk to them, you can tell, are they doing it from a good place? Do they really want to help people? Are they really genuine and authentic? Yeah.
All right. Okay, yeah, this is an interesting question that I'm also curious. So we talk a lot about impact so far, right? And I'm curious to know how your courses are priced, because the lower the price of your course, you could have larger impact,
Yeah,
right? And of course,
yeah.
the higher you can deliver better service and reach out less
Yeah.
people. So how do you kind of like decide the price point, right? To decide, especially now that it's online based, people from all around the world, US, Nigeria, whatever.
Yeah. So my live course, which is the Wealth Academy where I teach live, is actually priced about the same as when it was a physical course, which is about 4,000 Singapore dollars, right? So that was price of the physical course. Okay. Now the Piranha Profits, it's an on-demand course, so it's not live; it's pre-recorded. You watch the videos and stuff like that. So that's priced about 1,000 US plus. And then we have got the subscription playbooks, which is not a course, but it's an annual subscription. When they subscribe to it, they get to be my apprentice in a way, watching over my shoulder. So basically every day, I trade almost everyday options. So whatever I trade, I do a screenshot of the buy and sell, I send it to them. Every time I buy something, screenshot, send it. So they get to see my live investment trades every single day. And then every month I do a deep dive into my portfolio. So they see my exact portfolio every month. They see the returns. They see the allocation so it's like being there with me. Okay. So that one is also about 1,000 plus. Okay. Now here's something interesting since you mentioned it. A few days ago, I went on a retreat with my staff to kind of like analyze our business. And one of the things that they do is that they show competitor data, what the competitors are pricing and all that stuff. Now, I won't mention which competitor, but basically in Singapore, there's one competitor that's quite close to us. I won't mention, okay? But when they showed their pricing, I almost fell off my chair. Okay, let me tell you why. This company, okay, they initially charge, I think, like $300. It's like a low ticket item to get the people into the course, okay? And then they will upsell them. And their upsell starts at 10K, 20, 50, and 80. And I'm charging $1,000. What? They're charging 50K? I said, which idiot will pay 50K? I think no one pays it. I think they put it there for fun, right? No. We actually have spoken to someone who used to work for them and said, no, every year they have got roughly about, what's 8 times 12? Sorry, my mental math's not very good.
96.
96. They've got roughly 96 people paying the 50K package a year. That's like 4 million. I say, what? 50K. Teaching, teaching the same stuff. And okay, maybe it's my ego, right? But I think we give a lot more value than that, okay? Now, again, I won't mention which company. It so happens that Jeff, my Jeff, the analyst, right, took their course for the fun of it. Because he likes to take courses from everyone just to learn, right? He took their $200 course and they tried to upsell him the 10K course by their guru. So Jeff said, I don't mind paying you 10K if you can really help me. Because remember, Jeff is running his hedge fund, right? He said, I'm willing to learn if you can teach me. But Jeff said just one thing. Can you send me his track record of the guy who's teaching me? Then he said, okay. So you know what they sent? They sent him 5 trades. 5 trades, I mean, you could always pick the best 5 trades, right? No, Jeff said, no. I want give me at least 3-year track record. Then they, don't have, okay, I tell you what, maybe this one not for you. We sell you something else. All right, so they wanted to sell him another one by another guru. Then Jeff said, okay, can you send me that person's track record? Then he came back, I don't think that our courses are suitable for you. Thank you very much.
Also over the phone?
I think he called them as well. Okay. So here are these guys who are teaching investing and trading with no freaking track record. I would imagine, because if you've got a track record, just show the track record, right? They got no track record. And they're charging 50 to 80K. And there are people stupid enough to buy. So then I look at my course, I'm saying that I've got the track record for so many years. We've got so many students doing well. And I'm charging 1,000. Maybe I'm undercharging.
Fair point, yeah. Good point, yeah. Okay. So, speaking of pricing, right? You mentioned that you do like the Black Friday sale, I think,
Yeah,
once a year, right? Then there are going to be some who paid the full price, and then some who enter at Black Friday, and then some pay higher, some pay cheaper. I mean, they feel, I feel a bit unjust, I pay a higher price. So how do you deal with people who got in at a higher price?
Actually, we have got very few of that issues, actually. Okay, so what happens is this. So let's imagine, so the cost, let's say usually it's, okay, let's say it's 2K, right? And let's say you bought my course in January for 2K. Now in November, there's this special discount where it's now like 1,000 plus. And this guy bought in January, and now it's half price. Now, will that guy feel cheated or feel bad? It depends on the perspective, right? So from one perspective, if you think about it, because this guy bought the course early in January, he's got 10 months of trading. With the right, using the right strategy, do you think he can make more than the additional discount? You get what I'm saying? So in other words, if he waited to November to buy it, yeah, he saves $800. He saves $800. But he learns it 11 months later. But if he had applied it 11 months earlier, he may have made 50,000 in the market. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I put myself in their shoes, would I mind paying more but learning it earlier to have more time to generate income? I would.
So I know you used to drive a sports car. I think was it a Lotus? I think we spoke last time.
Yeah,
maybe on
Lotus.
Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you sold it. I think you mentioned you sold it. Do you still own car or just Grab?
No, I just Grab all the way. So my wife has a car. Yeah, so I don't have a car. And I was thinking of buying a car actually. But the reason I have not is because I don't see any benefit to buying a car. I mean, if there was, I would buy. But I don't see any benefit. So the reason you have to understand is that I hardly go out on my own. Very rarely go on my own. Right? I'm a homebody. I'm like a house husband. I'm at home all the time with my kids. Okay? And the only time I go out is with my wife. And if I go out with her, then we take her car. And I'm so lazy that it's always like she drives. And only when she's tired, I drive. So I don't enjoy being in the traffic and finding parking. I like her to drive, right? So if I buy a car now, it's going to sit at home doing nothing. Because I hardly go on my own, right? And even in the rare times I go to the office, which is once a week, my office is like 10 minutes away. Is it easier to just call a Grab? But I'm contemplating maybe buying a car because my 2 kids could be learning driving soon. And if they are, going to study in Bukit Timah or Clementi or that, yeah, maybe they may need a car. So I may buy it for them to use as a second family car. But for me, I don't really see a need to buy a car because I don't use it.
Yeah. So I think I read online, maybe was it on Rise Media when you were younger days, maybe when you're 20s or 30s, driving car, the material ones, it's like, do you feel that this is like a phase that, people have to go through to kind of like buy the material stuff to know how it feels like to realize, it's just not that important and just kind of like discard away? I think that's the process that you
Absolutely.
went through. So people have to go through it.
It's called maturity. It's called maturity, right? Yeah. So in your younger years, you always need to buy that to show that you've made it, right? I've got the car, I've got the clothes and stuff like that. Now, for me, I've never been interested in jewelry or clothes. I've never been interested for some reason, So I've always never bought any branded clothes. I've never been interested in it. The only thing was the car. It's like, chicks love the car. It's always about the car, right? The chicks like the car, right? Yeah, in my earlier years. But as you grow older in your 40s and all that, you realize that it's totally unimportant. I mean, who am I going to show off to now? I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I'm not looking for a chick. Yeah, there's no reason.
Okay, thank you for the perspective. Because I always wonder, people who this phase is something like people have to go through to kind of realize it's not important. So yeah, thanks.
Let me share with you. I think it's also the friends you hang out with that influences you. Okay. Now I joined this organization called YPO, which is the Young Presidents Organization, and within YPO we are put into small groups called forums where you're from entrepreneur organization EO. It's the same thing, right? So I've got this group of very close friends that we meet every month, and we've been doing it now for 13 years. Okay. Now in this group, of course I can't mention their names because it's very private. In this group, let's put it this way: I'm the poorest guy. Okay, I'm the poorest guy in the group. Okay, one of them Now recently the market dropped, but before that he was close to being a billionaire. Let's put it that way, right? He is now. I think he's still worth at least $500 million. Okay. Now this guy who's worth $500 million, he rides a scooter. Okay, not even like a Harley. He rides a scooter. Okay. I've got another friend, also worth $400 million. He takes Grab everywhere. He doesn't even use a car. So and they're such close friends that they have been so influenced by that. And these guys are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They don't wear any branded clothes and they don't drive fancy cars. And I realized, so one of the things I realized is that the people who drive the fancy cars and the branded clothes are the wannabes. They are the wannabe. They want to look rich. And maybe those who are a bit rich, like those that have maybe 1-2 million are still there. But once you have your $50-100 million, you find at that level, most of them, they dress the most shabbily. Sometimes, some of my friends from YPO who are worth the hundreds of millions, they wear slippers, They wear t-shirts. You can never tell. But the ones with the well-dressed, they are worth less than $1 or $2 million. So the richer people are, the more it becomes unimportant, this material stuff.
Because they probably feel that there's nothing left to prove already.
Not only that, but in fact, you want to hide it. You want to hide it. You don't show it, right?
Yeah. I think there's a quote I read by Naval Ravikant. Rather be rich and anonymous than rich and famous. Anonymous.
Yeah. That's why, when people ask you, say, how do you know when these online courses are scams? Very simple. If their video shows a Ferrari behind a mansion, it's a freaking scam. It's a freaking scam. Because if someone is really making millions and millions, they won't show that. They won't. It's just like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just like that.
And also speaking of, you have peers in YPO who are like, a lot richer.
A lot richer. I'm the poorest guy. Okay, I'm one of the poorest guys there, right?
Do you feel intimidated by being people who are like, doing so much better than you, or it's kind of like, you're kind of like used to it?
Initially, when I first joined 13 years ago, but now, no, I mean, such close friends. After a while, no.
Is there any reason why you're in YPO and then Patrick is in EO? Like, why do you like choose to be in this respective
so I was in EO initially, and then I left EO to join YPO. And there's a rule that only one person per organization can be in that organization. So if I'm in YPO, he can't be in YPO. And that's why he's in EO.
Okay.
All right, so we conquer both.
So next one, right? So from what I read online, you used to have this workshop called Patterns of Excellence. Is it still being run by you?
No, I don't run it anymore.
You don't run it anymore.
So Patterns of Excellence is my NLP course, which is, I would tell you, is the most powerful course I run. It's not the most profitable, but it's the most powerful. It's changed so many lives. And it stopped running because of COVID.
Okay.
Because Patterns of Excellence is something that you can't do online. It's very interactive. And a lot of people have said, Adam, why don't you start it again and all that? But it takes a lot of time to start. And now I'm at a stage where my family is so used to having me around so much. I'm with my wife every day that I don't want to change that.
Got it. So
I'm kind of like making up for not being there for the first 18 years, right?
Yeah.
I'm making up for that.
I understand. So like you were saying earlier, before COVID, you're like flying so often a week, you're hardly home with your wife and kids.
three cities a week.
And now that you're home most of the time, you just want to treasure this moment.
I treasure this moment. Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh yeah. So I think you mentioned that you're an introvert, right? I think speaking with you face to face, I can sense that as well. But on Facebook, you don't seem like an introvert. So what's your take on that?
It's always the brand, So I remember that years ago there was a Straits Times article that they did on me, and the headline was, "Who says I'm Hao Lian?" Hao Lian in Hokkien means show off, So a lot of people have this perception, maybe more at that time, that I'm a show off. Okay, why? Because if you look at my ads, it's always like, I made 1 million, I made, things like that, right? Now, what people don't realize is that it's not me putting up the ads, it's my marketing team. And very often, I can tell you, I'm always having this thing with my marketing team where I tell them, can you guys tone it down? Can you not put the 1 million there? Because remember that my marketing team, what is their KPI? Is to market to brands. So they have to put me up there as this poster boy. And so it's always me not wanting to do it, But Patrick and the team, like, we have to do it because, you have to brand you, right? So it's not I would say it's a necessary evil. It's not something I like, but I know it's necessary. Yeah.
Okay. And I think in your videos, I've seen some of it, you use quite a few dirty jokes here and there. I don't think you're a dirty person. So is there like, again, a strategic reason for that?
I love to joke around. And in a way, yeah, I like to create controversy. Like, I still remember in 2020, I said Trump will lose to Biden, and it created a lot of controversy. And I said, if Trump wins, I'll eat the MAGA hat. I don't know. I'm just a person who likes to create that kind of controversy to get people like, riled up and stuff like that. So, but part of my personality is I always love to make people laugh. In fact, I asked my wife, why did you marry me? Now, bear in mind, my wife, I got to know her when I was in the army. So I had no money. I was still in the army at the time. I was 19, and she was already working. She was with AIA. She was in $1 million round table. So she was making a lot of money. She was like my sugar mommy, basically, right? She paid for everything, So she didn't marry me for money. That I'm sure of. And I always ask her, why do you marry me, right? And she said, because you make me laugh.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and to this day, one of the greatest joys I get is to make her laugh every day. Every day she laughs. I make her laugh like crazy, right? And it's just something I love to do to people. Yeah.
What about your daughters? Do they feel that Papa is damn funny?
Yeah. We are very close. In fact, my daughter calls me bro. And she calls me bro.
Okay, so the kind of like the Facebook personality that you have online is actually quite similar to how you are in real life with your family as well.
Oh yeah, we're very, very close. In fact, yeah, it's good and bad, in a sense that I know a lot of my friends whose kids are closer to their friends than closer to their parents, right? They'll tell their friends, but they'll keep quiet to their parents. My daughters are the total, they tell us everything, they tell me everything. In fact, sometimes I say, can you go out there and go with your friends? And oftentimes they rather spend time with me than their friends, which is good and bad, The good is that I'm very close to them, but the bad is I want them to have friends as well, But maybe that's the problem. I'm there all the time, so they spend a lot of time with me.
You were there, I think, since after COVID. How about prior to COVID? You're not really there for them. So how did that kind of like them still being so close to you, Even
we were although I was traveling, I was always on the phone with them.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and when I was at home, every time I was at home, I would always be the one bring them Universal Studios and all that. And we still had holidays, of course. So holidays is where we bonded a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw on your Facebook Switzerland and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
You brought the whole family.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of like the way you spend your money on probably on holidays is probably
That's the only place where I spend my money on. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course now with my house renovation, the biggest expense of my entire life.
Right. I'm about to ask that, but we'll take that after today's conversation. Yeah. So yeah, this is another one, right? So I think I read on Rise Media online. Sometimes you can't really trust things that you read online.
Sure.
So curious to hear, right? I think you have this program called, I think, the I Am Gifted program,
Yeah,
right? And then I think you're being asked, do you feel that grades are important? And I think back then your reply was, you don't feel it's important. However, your wife feels that it's important. Then sometimes you have difficulty convincing yourself whether it's important or not. It's kind of like mid-dilemma. So has your views changed, right, today now that your kids are much older?
Are grades important, is it? Grades are important as a credential passport. Okay? So for me, why did I work so hard to, do well academically? Because I needed that credibility, because I run a training school. So I got to show that, hey, I top NUS. I need to show that credibility, right? But at the end of the day, did the knowledge that I got from that education actually make me a better entrepreneur, businessman? Maybe not so much. Same thing. In NUS, I majored in finance and marketing. But did the finance I learned in university help me as an investor? No. The only thing that helped me was, I guess, accounting. Learning accounting helped me to understand financial statements better. But for example, I remember when I was in NUS, we studied options. But they teach you all the theoretical things about options, how to price options and Black-Scholes formula, which doesn't work in real life. Okay? So So again, back to the question, are grades important? Yes, for credentials. But for the knowledge, no. Because you get that through ongoing learning.
So when you say it's important for credentials, so credentials will only be important if your field of work requires that credentials
Yeah.
from your grades?
Yeah.
Because let's say someone wants to be, I don't know, entrepreneur, then grades you don't really
Then
need
of course,
very,
yeah.
So it kind of like depends on what the kid wants in life and then kind of decide. If you want to be doctor, then no choice. A lawyer, no choice.
Yeah, you need a cert for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if someone were to ask, if someone would say, Adam, I want to be an entrepreneur, should I still go to university? To me, it's like, why not? Just go. There's no harm. And the great thing about university is also the network and the connections that you make.
So back then when your kids were like younger, then they have homework, they have things and stuff like that. So what kind of parents were you like? Were you like, better get, all your A's or,
No, we're not like
pass,
that. No, we were not like that. My wife is not like that. We're not. We're just like, do your best.
Okay.
Just do your best.
So with just, saying them do your best, then you kind of like let the kids do what they want and whatever results come back, you will just deal with it?
Yeah, we'll deal with it. Yeah. Okay. We're not the type that, you got 90%, what happened to the 10%? No, we're not like that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, because I feel that, in Singapore context, a lot of parents, they're just kind of like pushing a lot about the grades and academics. So logically speaking, right, if all the kids are going to get good grades, right, all have their degrees, then the supply of all this certification is going to be so much. And when the supply of all this certification is so much, your salary is going to have, more supply, means salary is not going to be as high.
Yeah, correct.
So I'm thinking, just thinking out loud, how else, can I maybe equip the kids with that kind of like the age, right? So they don't have to go down this competitive, this red ocean, right, where all the parents are just, diving down towards.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what would you say if a parent has this thought and what would you say to them?
What thought?
Where they know that education is not everything, but they feel this pressure to kind of like make sure their kids, do well academically, their things here and spelling. But at the same time, they know that academic is not everything, yeah. So I guess a lot of parents, even me included, right, I have a struggle. Like my wife feels that, your spelling and things here got to do well. But I feel that, I didn't do very well in school, but I still turned out okay in life. So we have kind of like this kind of like conflict going on. Then
I think it's good to me, I always believe you should do your best in anything. So if you're in school, should you go for A's? Yes. Not because the A's are important, but it's to build a work ethic that you want to do the best that you can do. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's the process, but not the result that's important. So I would still want you to do your best to get A's, because it's the work ethic of doing the best. But in the end, if you don't get A's, but you did your best, hey, great job. I'm proud of you. Because at least you learn to work hard at it. And I've been in this education business for so many years, right? And I've seen cases, and I've read cases, I'm sure you have, of people who are in top schools, right? Your Raffles, your Hwa Chong and all that. And they got 6 A's for A-levels and they committed suicide. I think there was this case like that, right? They got 6 A's and committed suicide. Why? Because one of them didn't get an A, got a credit. So to me, what's the point in being so academically brilliant if you don't have this, what we call AQ, adversity quotient, that you're not able to take failure? You right? Yeah, so to me, some people are good academically, but they can't take failure, they can't take rejection. And if you're like that, how are you going to get anywhere in life?
And probably because they have not failed in life, they've always been no A student, and when the failure comes later in life, like, wow.
They can't take it, right? So I would rather take person B who didn't get 7 A's, who got maybe 7 B's, but this person can take rejection, this person can take failure, this person is more creative.
All right. So now that your kids are, I think, driving license
20
18.
and 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you wish you had done for your kids, right? Back then when they were younger? Is there anything that you wish, man, I wish I had done this, blah, blah, blah. Any thought that comes to mind?
Not really. Actually, me and my wife, we are pretty happy with what we've done, And the thing is that I come from a divorced family. And my wife's parents, although they are not legally divorced, but they were separated as well. And my wife's parents were never around as well. The dad was not in Singapore. The mom was never. So my wife was always alone, looking after herself at a very young age. So because of that, in a way, we wanted to do the opposite for our kids. That's why we are always there for our kids, because our parents were not always there for us every day. So we kind of like overcompensated, which maybe sometimes, again, it could be a negative, because now my two kids are very loving to us, they're very close to us, but maybe they're not as fired up because we are there too much. You know what I'm saying?
Fired up, meaning what?
Okay, so like I said, when I was young, I wanted to make a lot of money, and I wanted to be my own boss because I wanted to prove myself. But my kids, they don't have that much fire, maybe not yet. They're like, okay, life is, they are more contented with life. Maybe because we've given them such a good life, right? Although we've done our best to not spoil them. We don't buy them branded stuff and stuff like that, So we're good that they're not spoiled, but at the same time, they're not like hungry. And that's the problem. When you don't have a lot of adversity and when you're young, you don't have as much hunger. And that's something that is challenging. How do you create hunger?
And how do you feel about it? Like seeing right now, maybe your two daughters, they're not as hungry
Not
as
as
you
hungry,
were back
yeah.
then, right? So
Yeah.
how do you feel about it?
On one hand, I tell myself, I can't compare them with myself, right? Because like I said, remember at 13 years old, I was running my first business, Although I'm very proud of my two kids because we never told them to do it, but school holidays, they go and find their own jobs. So they've worked at Coffee Bean. They have worked at, what's that Mexican restaurant, that fast food Mexican restaurant?
Gomez. Is it
At the Gomez. They worked at Gomez. They work at so they've worked as waitresses. They've done all kinds of jobs, and they make their own money. And I'm very proud because every time they make that extra money, they'll say, "Papa, put into the brokerage, Interactive Brokers." So it's there. So I'm proud in that way that they know how to make their own money. And I never told them to find their own jobs. They found their own jobs. And I'm very proud that they themselves want to put into the markets. All right. But again, going back, it's like, in my mind, it's like, when I was your age, I was running my own business. But, how do you compare?
Yeah.
It's really hard, right?
Given the circumstance as well, also different upbringing and circumstance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Back then, Papa was Bruce Lee, wannabe.
Yeah.
And how does your wife feel about it? Is she like, she's okay, with my daughters are like this, not as hungry as Papa, so be it, as long as they're happy, that's most important. Is it?
Yeah. I mean, my wife is more chill than me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, I don't know, do you get, because now your daughters are much older, they understand that Papa is, close to 1 million subscribers, right?
Yeah.
And they say, Papa, how do you do this? Can you teach us how to, be like you and stuff like that? No. Okay.
Yeah, they like to do their own thing. Tell you something pretty funny. So my second daughter, she started her own YouTube channel where she shows her studying. And, they call study vlog. Study vlog. So she's got this study vlog. And she was getting very few views. I think like 10 views and 20 views and stuff like that. And then she was kind of like, complaining to me and my wife, I wish I had more views and things like that, right? So I thought, help her, right? So I posted her channel on my Facebook. I said, hey, check out, this is my daughter's video. And the next thing, her video from, 20, 30 views, jumped to 1,000 and all that, right? And I thought she'd be happy, right? Oh, she was upset. She was upset with me. Papa, why you post my video on your channel? Why didn't you tell me? I said, I'm helping. And she didn't want that because she didn't want the help. She said, I want to do it on my own. I don't want you to do it for me.
So it's a fire down there, something to prove.
Yeah.
Right?
And then my wife was like, nothing wrong. Your papa is trying to help you in life. If you have connections, make use of the connections. No. I don't want. So, okay, so fine. So
Delete post, okay.
delete post, right? Yeah.
Speaking of starting vlog, there's one channel also, I think it was Karen Khoo. She had something similar as well. So I don't maybe something that your daughter can model.
Yeah, I told her, I say, go model that.
Yeah. Okay, nice. So I think we spoke a lot about like handling adversity, right? Having putting in hard work. So is there like a one lesson of value that you wish your children have, or you wish that they learn, or maybe they already acquired that one value or skill that you feel that it's important, right, for the rest of your life? What would that be?
I think there's no one value or skill. I think there are many of them. And since they were young, we have been doing our best to inculcate this in them already. not just through the family time, but like I said, my two kids also attended my courses. So they were also psychoed in that way. That, dream big, don't be afraid of failure, don't be afraid of rejection, just go for it. And so that's the main thing, right? So the first thing is to dare to dream big. Number two is take action. Because a lot of people, they have paralysis of analysis. They think, what if this doesn't work, what if that doesn't work? Just do it. Just do it, And there's no failure. One of the things that we teach our kids in the program, which I keep, that there's no failure, there's only results. If you take action, if you don't get the results you want, that's not failure, it's a result, right? If it's a result you want, good. If it's a result you don't want, learn from it. And the only failure is not taking action. Because if you don't do anything, then that is failure. So I would say that's the main thing I wanted to get through to them, which I think I did. Yeah.
Where there's no such thing as failure, only feedback or the result that you
Correct.
get. Correct.
There's no failure, only feedback. Yeah.
And then, besides attending your camp, what else, maybe did you and your wife do to make sure that they inculcate those values? Maybe at home there's certain things that you do, or
Okay, I'll tell you a funny story. I remember this very, very clearly. This was probably when my elder daughter was, 5 years old or something like that. And we were in the botanical gardens walking around, and we came to this place where there's a stream. And there was like stones across the stream. Now, it's not a deep stream. It's like, at the most you get your feet wet, right? So we're crossing, this plank across the stream. And my daughter, who was 5 at the time, didn't dare to cross the stream. Afraid of falling. But, even before you just get wet, right? So at that time, some parents would say, oh, never mind, we carry you across, or never mind, just avoid the stream. So initially, I was like going to carry her across. And my wife, no, you must cross. Because if you don't overcome this fear, in the future, you'll always be fearful of challenges. I was like, wow, okay, all right. So we were like coaxing her, cross the plank, right, And we spent about, I think, 40 minutes on that whole exercise. But we didn't force, we didn't drag her, we were like coaxing, but she was so scared. So then what we did was step by step. So I would say, okay, hold my hand this way, and slowly 1 step, 2 steps, right? So eventually she crossed it. And once she crossed it, she was like, hey, I didn't die, right? Then she did it a few times. So, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, so to help them kind of break that own limiting belief in their head.
Yeah, everything can be broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever there's like such opportunities.
A teachable moment.
Okay, teachable moment.
Everything is a teachable moment, right?
Capitalize on it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your wife. How long have you been married with your wife? Your wife have a very good marriage. So what do you think is that some of the things that maybe both of you do that help last marriage to this stage? Because I've seen my age couples already, kind of going in different directions. So we'd love to hear, right, from your experience.
Okay.
I've made a few things that comes to mind, yeah.
I would say, wow, how do I distill that? To today, right, we still hold hands every time we go out.
Wow.
And when we are sleeping at night, we hold hands to sleep every night.
Without fail.
Yeah.
Gotta try that tonight, man. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. I think, a few things I think that are very important in a marriage, right? Number one is you got to keep the intimacy alive. You got to keep that intimacy alive. All right, you know what I mean by intimacy? You have to be intimate. Very, very important. I find that when couples are no longer intimate, that's the beginning of the end. As long as you're physically intimate, you find that a lot of things can be resolved. One of the rules that we have is we never go to bed without resolving something. All right. So, do we fight? Of course, all couples fight. We have had really bad fights as well. But whatever it is, no matter how badly we fight, before we sleep, we will talk until resolve, settle, hug, kiss, and sleep. We never go to bed angry. That has always been that rule. There's always been that rule. Physical intimacy is very, very important. The third thing is, for me, And for her, we do our best to support each other in everything that we do. Right? So whatever she does, whatever interest she has, even if I've got totally no interest, I support her 100%. Yeah. So for example, like for me, I hate vegetables, right? I'm a total meatarian, right? But when she goes into certain phases where she's vegetarian, I'll just go eat vegetarian restaurant. I don't grumble. I just eat. It's about being supportive. Yeah. And never complain about each other, never resent, and never ever compete.
Compete as in...
Some couples, they have this internal competition. Like, you make more money than me, although she doesn't work. But other things that, I don't know how to explain. But, don't have this competition thing going on. Right? Okay. I think it's about putting the other person before you. Right? I don't know. I always have this thing that I always put her happiness before mine. And she also has that. So if you both focus on the other person more than you, it will work. But if you're focusing on yourself, you must make me happy. Problem. If I think you must make me happy and you think I must make you happy, gone. But if your focus is to make her happy and her focus is to make you happy, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Do you all both maybe share similar values in life?
Okay, so the interesting thing is we have totally different interests. Totally different, right? She loves vegetables. I love meat. She's very religious. I'm totally unreligious. We cannot be more different. But I think the one thing that we have in common a lot is we both love to laugh. We both love to laugh at stupid things. And I can tell you at this age, I'm 50, she's above 50, and we still have such childish conversation. When you were in school, you're like, hey, who you rather screw? You rather screw the girl, screw. That kind of, you would rather screw the amma with no teeth. We still do that today. Me and my wife, and we can talk cock. Talk cock like teenagers and laugh at stupid stuff. And that is what keeps us so close. That's one thing. We both love to laugh at stupid stuff. We both love to talk cock and talk rubbish. And the other thing is we have got very similar values when it comes to family. To us, family is always number one. My wife is fantastic because when I'm not around, she will bring my father out. And I don't ask her to do that. She'll bring my dad out. She'll bring my mom out. When my dad was having, and this was when I was overseas at the time, my dad was having, some pain. She'll go to my dad's house and massage him. Where to find wife like that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's when I know, it's really genuine. Because if she doesn't really love you, would you go to your father's house and massage your dad? I didn't even ask her to do that. Stuff like that.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh.
Yeah.
So do your kids, I guess, when you guys are affectionate with one another, do your kids kind of see you all behave in this manner so they can model?
We're very affectionate even in front of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing when you guys are maybe having, quarrels or debate or whatsoever, that's where the kids are not there to see. It's kind of private, just between
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
and then there's another rule, which I think this is a very well-known rule, right? It's never, never contradict each other in front of the kids. Even if you disagree. So if my wife says something to the kids, which I disagree, I will not in front of the kids disagree with her. I'll keep quiet. But then after that, I'll say, I don't think that was right.
Okay.
I think you should have done this instead. And then she will go and fix it. But if I go in and tap, that means I go and interfere and say, no, mom, you shouldn't do that. No.
Okay. Yeah. And what's the dynamics like between you and your wife? Is it kind of 50-50 between calling the shots, or maybe you're kind of the more alpha 60-40?
Okay, so the responsibility lines are very clearly defined, right? When it comes to money, she doesn't care at all. She has totally no interest in money. So when it comes to money, 100% me. Okay? Then when it comes to the household things, I've got no interest at all, zero. It's 100%. So there's no conflict. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, you are expert in this domain, you handle it.
Whoever's the expert handles it, and the other person doesn't even question. I can tell you right now, if I were to, for example, today go and buy a $3 million McLaren, she wouldn't even say anything. She's like, okay, fine.
She'll say, what took you so long?
Right? Yeah. And if I would go home today and she redecorated the whole house, I'll be like, okay, cool.
Hope. So earlier, I think I heard you mention 7 years of courtship. I think it's pretty long. Maybe in today's standard. So during that 7 years, what made you realize, okay, this is most likely to be the one, right?
I was pressured.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember, so we got married when I was 26 and she was 30.
Okay.
And she hinted, she said, if I don't get married by 30, I'm not going to get married anymore. I'm going to be a nun. Because, it's all about the biological clock, right?
Yes.
Because she knows that I got to get married by at least 30 because then I want to at least have 2 or 3 years of couple time before I have kids. If not, I'll be too old to have kids, right? So I was like, okay. I bought the trial package. I guess I'm going to purchase the product or the trial's over. 7 years of trial.
No refund, this one.
No refund.
Okay, so we can move on to the closing section. A few more questions for you. So I think, as I said, right, you've inspired me to do what I do today, and I'm not the only one. I have peers who feel the same way, and they're kind of curious. What's your daily routine like right now? I hear a lot. You're spending time a lot at home, but what's the typical daily routine?
Boring like crazy, man. So typical routine, I will wake up at 8 a.m., send my daughter to school, and then I come back, and usually we'll then I'll then have breakfast with my wife. And then I come back home, and then I'll spend the whole day in my home office, basically looking at the markets, analyzing stocks, and then replying all the emails, all the questions on my students' Discord channel, and a very boring life. At night, kids come back. We go out for dinner half the time eat at home, and watch movies. We love watching movies. And then we go for a run or walk at night, my wife and I. We jog around the estate. That's it. Very, very boring life. But I love it.
Simple is good, yeah?
Very simple,
So you say that you send your kids to school. So I guess you're using your wife's car, I suppose, or Grab together.
Yeah.
Okay. And from what I'm hearing is that, the moment you reach home after breakfast, you're in your room doing the market analysis and things. So your wife does her own thing, you do your own thing.
Yeah.
Under the same roof, lah. Then meal times you'll come out.
Yeah. She's very active. She's got a more active schedule than me. So she's very into gym. She's in a gym almost every day. And she's very much into Pilates. She's studying to be a Pilates instructor. So she does a lot of, she goes for a lot of Pilates lessons and coaching and stuff like that. Yeah.
So by being supportive of what she does, you don't have to go and do Pilates and all this with her.
No, I do. Yeah. So sometimes I'm the guinea pig. We call it the body, where she does Pilates instruction, then I pretend to be the client. Yeah, so once in a while, I'm the client.
Okay.
I'm the body. Right?
Okay. So what's next for you? At this stage in life, I can see you're very happy, doing whatever you're doing. But is there any next stage or next phase that you're planning, or just for the next maybe 3 to 5 years you will continue this path?
There's nothing to change. I would say, my life is close to perfect right now. Because I'm a very simple guy, and to me, the most important thing has always been family, right? So family's close and all that. So that's pretty happy with that.
So prior to COVID, where you're flying around so often, growing the business, I guess the main goal was still family at the end of the day. If you have all the money, you want to go back to your family.
Correct.
Just like COVID expedite everything for you, and now you kind of reach this stage much earlier.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't kind of change anything.
No.
Yeah. Okay. What do you feel that you've changed your mind on recently?
Nothing really major, actually. Yeah, I haven't really had a change in perspective or the way I live my life. It's been pretty constant to the point of boring. But I like it, And for example, a lot of people ask about New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. I actually have just got one thing that I need to work on. I look at my life, finances, career, and if I were to grade myself, I would say I'm the top of my game in everything except fitness. That's one thing that I have to admit I'm really lazy about. That I'm not constantly exercising as much as I should. So that's the one thing I need to work on.
So you need to tell the whole world you're going to go for IPPT this year. that's the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think back then we spoke casually, or maybe you talk about crypto, right, where you don't really believe in it. Is the view still the same, or maybe over the last 1-2 years now the ETF has launched? Has it changed?
No, it doesn't. Right. So I mean, to me, I'm a very conservative person by nature. So I only invest in something that I can really understand, that I can really value. Okay. So again, I'm kind of like the Buffett methodology. When I buy a stock, I don't see it as a stock, I see it as a business. If I buy, for example, Microsoft, I'm buying a part of Microsoft, I can value it based on its cash flow. So when I invest in something like Microsoft, right, and if let's say the market crashes and the stock price drops by 50%, I've got no worries. I got zero worries because I know what is the business worth. The business is still there, making money, and I know eventually the price would rebound, okay? But if I buy something like a crypto, for example, I've got no idea what the hell I'm buying. To me, it's an asset that by itself doesn't produce anything, doesn't generate any cash. And the only reason you buy it, and to me, it's got hardly any utility, as in you don't use it for transactions, unless you're a money launderer or terrorist, right? Why do you buy crypto? For only one reason. You're hoping to sell it at a higher price. Agree? So to me, it's like a greater fool's game. If you buy it and you pay a certain price, you are a fool. But it's fine, as long as you sell to a bigger fool. And that bigger fool who buys from you must then sell it to another bigger fool. And could you make a lot of money doing that? Yes, you can. But you just have to make sure you're not the biggest fool that holds the hot potato at the end. So I tell people that, could you make a lot of money in crypto? Yes, you can. But treat it as a speculation. If you want to get in, have a stop loss, have a profit target, go ahead. Go and do it, right? But because it's a non-productive asset, and to me, there's no intrinsic value except what people assign to it based on their psychology, you have to be aware that it could go to zero. It could. And whatever you put in, you have to be prepared. If it goes to zero, you're okay with it. But I'm at a stage of my life right now where at my age and my finances, it's not so much getting the biggest return anymore. It's about protecting what you have. I just shared my accounts on, I think, the fifth person or so, right? So I did like 45% return on my portfolio. And if you look at a lot of my students' returns, which I post on Facebook, and there's a lot I haven't posted, right? They are doing 100% returns, right? It's not because they're better than me, but because they took more risks, they use leverage more, they concentrate only on growth stocks. Whereas if you look at my portfolio, I've got over 43 stocks right now. And only 50% are growth stocks. I've got 50% stocks like Pepsi, McDonald's, very defensive companies. Because again, to me, it's not about getting the biggest returns. It's about making sure that if shit happens, my portfolio is solid. It's got a lot of defensive companies. So that's why, to me, personally, I don't touch crypto. Could I make a lot of money? Yes. But to me, it's not about making money now, making the most. It's about making sure that if it drops, I understand. Like if I buy crypto now and crypto drops 50%, I wouldn't know what to do now. Because I don't know what is it really worth. I'll panic. But if I buy Microsoft, it drops 50%, I'm cool. Because I know the business is still worth that amount. Yeah.
I respect that because it shows that you're just choosing to stay in your domain of expertise rather than venturing into something new and high-pitch because that's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of wealth preservation, you're trying to grow your money, but at the same time protect it, right? So how do you plan to distribute it, after you leave this world? Is it going to be to charity, or do you have plans to, maybe put it to your kids, or what are some of the things?
That's something I haven't really thought about. But everything in my life is jointly owned by my wife. Everything. So in fact, there was once I went to see this guy who was like doing legacy, writing a will. And when I told him that everything is joint account with my wife, then he said, you don't need a will. I really don't need a will, because if anything happens to me, then my wife gets everything. Very simple. Of course, the problem is if we both go at the same time, then that's a problem, right? Then I may have to build a living trust to make sure that it's distributed to my two kids in the right way.
Okay.
Although I do know that my kids are not the kind of person where if they suddenly inherit 20, 30 million, they'll go and buy 10 Ferraris. I know they're not like that because by nature, they're not like that. I know that. But you never know. They may get seduced by a guy who takes away all their money, right? Yeah. So I have to factor that in. But that's in the unlikely scenario that me and my wife both go at the same time. But if I were to go first, then I have no worries because I know my wife will look after my parents, whatever I know.
Okay.
But my only concern is that she's not really interested in investing and trading. So my instructions to her is similar to Buffett's instructions to his wife. If anything happens to me, put everything into ETF. That's it. Okay? And right now, if you look at my Interactive Brokers accounts, I've got a lot of open option positions, which are very sensitive, right? So I already have two of my close friends. One of them is Patrick. They got the instructions. Anything happens to me, the first thing you do, before you cry, before you get the death certificate, what must you do? Log into my Interactive Brokers account and close all the options positions. That's the first thing.
Okay.
And then sell everything and put into ETF. Right? Because I'm not there to manage it anymore, right?
There's so many ETFs. So which one would you tell them to buy?
Buy the SPY.
Okay. And I know you're very active in the US stock market, but at the same time, I think you mentioned that you're also exposed to the local market, even though the trend is just, I think, more of range than trend, right? So is there a reason for...
Different objectives, right? So if the objective is to grow your wealth, US market, don't waste time with anything else. Don't waste your time, okay? Now, Singapore market, if you want to grow your wealth, to me, it's a waste of your time, okay? If you look at the Straits Times Index for the last 10 years, I think it's like 0. Okay, in Singapore, there are only a handful of stocks, in my opinion, that are worth investing in, which are the 3 banks, UOB, DBS, OCBC, and some of the stronger REITs like Mapletree, CapitaLand. That's it. The rest, to me, are a waste of time. And for these few Singapore stocks, the only purpose to buy them is not for capital gain. It's just for dividends. Because they give pretty attractive dividend yield. Now it's like 6% dividend yield, tax-free, right? So I have got a dividend portfolio, and my dividend portfolio, the objective is not to grow it, because the growth is in my US portfolio, right? So that one is just to get dividends to pay my expenses, right? So that one, I just buy the 3 Singapore banks and the core Singapore REITs, and that's it, yeah.
When you say tax-free, you're talking about personal income tax level, is it?
No, dividends are all tax-free.
Because the company got taxed at that level already. That's why it enriches you. Okay.
No. Remember that REITs are tax-free in Singapore.
Well, I'm not sure.
REITs are tax-free.
Okay.
Yeah, banks, the banks are taxed at the corporate level. When you receive dividends, it's tax-free. But REITs are tax-free at the corporate level and at the individual level.
Okay.
Yeah, only for REITs.
Okay.
Yeah, only for REITs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's 2 more questions before we let you go. So I believe you are quite a person who likes to read, right? Anthony Robbins and stuff like that. So imagine there's a library which is burning down right now. You can save 2 books. Which 2 books would you save?
Besides my own, is it?
Yes, besides your own.
I think that the question is, what have been the most important books to me? Would be really, Tony Robbins. The first book he wrote, which is Unlimited Power. That had one of the biggest impacts in my life. And I would say the second book would be The 5 Love Languages by Gary Campbell. Is it Gary Campbell or Joseph Campbell? Something like that?
Gosh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that really taught me about relationships and all that. And that really also impacted my life a lot.
So speaking of love language, so what is your love language?
Good question. Like most men, okay, physical.
Physical. Okay.
Yeah, I need to be hugged. I need to be kissed every day.
That explains why you and your wife are so intimate, right? Every single day.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, my wife has a completely different love language from me. Okay, so again, my love language is physical. I need to be loved. I need to be hugged and kissed every day. And words of affection. I need to hear "I love you." Okay, I need to hear it every day. Okay. Now my wife is totally different. My wife, her love language is quality time. It's just being with her, and connecting, right? And the other one is acts of service. Acts of service means you do things for her, massage her, buy food for her, cook for her, that thing. So in the initial years, there was a bit of a problem because it was a mismatch, right? So initially, my dream was every time I come home from work, she will run to me and hug and kiss. Never happened, right? Because the physical thing is not her love language. So when she didn't hug or kiss me and all that, I felt very unloved, all right? And I felt she didn't love me. This was in the early days. I thought if she loved me, she should hug me every day. If she loved me, she should kiss me every day. So she doesn't love me, right? But what I didn't realize was, again at that time, great example, she would go to my father's house, bring my dad out and give him a massage. And that's called acts of service. And she would make food for me and bring it to my office. So that was her way to show love. But I didn't see it because to me, she didn't hug me today. You know what I'm saying, right? And then I remember in the early days, I would say, I would text her like, I love you. No response.
Ouch.
Yeah, then I tell her, I love you. And she, I know. I said, why don't you say I love you back? Must still say, you should know, right? I was like, I just want to hear it, right? So, you know what I'm saying? So there was a bit of mismatch there. But then once she understood it, and then I also showed her the book and all that, I told her, I said, I need to be hugged and touched every day. And she, okay, right? And then at the same time, I know that she needs that quality. She needs me to be there with her, to spend time with her. So once we knew each other's love language, then it was really, really easy.
Okay, so
then I know what makes her love. She knows what makes me love. Yeah.
and of course you purposely do the things that will make her feel loved.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
at the start maybe it might feel a bit forced, but after that becomes natural. Over
Because,
the-
I mean, in the old days, I thought that by hugging her all the time, she would feel love. But she didn't. That was not her love language. So I was hugging her all the time, but I didn't do the acts of service. So, for example, she would say something like, Adam, go to the supermarket and buy eggs. You're like, okay, then forget. Oh, then she get really angry because you didn't do that service. So I then realized that buying the eggs from the supermarket for her was equivalent to me getting 10 hugs. You know, and when I started to do the acts of service, when I started to spend quality time, then she felt so loved that automatically she would give me all that physical love and all that words of affection
to reciprocate.
to reciprocate, right?
What about between you and your daughters? Are you aware of their love language as well? You and your daughters?
I never really thought about it actually. I've never really thought about it to,
Okay, so
I
food
never
for
really
thought, right?
But I would imagine could be physical because they are both very physically loving. And, you know, at this age, she's 20, she still comes and gives me a hug. You know, same as my daughter, she still comes and gives me a hug. So, yeah.
Or perhaps they know that is your love language, so that's
Maybe.
why we're
No, I don't think they think that deeply. Right, yeah.
All right. So is there anything else like, today, in today's podcast that I didn't cover or you wish to add that I didn't?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything, man.
Right, business,
I think
life,
you
parenting.
dug my life inside out. And these are stuff that I have not talked about for quite a while, actually. Yeah, during my Patterns of Excellence program, because the POE program, as we called it, was not really about making money. It was about helping people to live their best life, relationships and career. And during that course was where I shared a lot of my private life, because we wanted everyone to share as well. You know, so that's where we share all these things because this affects us, the relationships and all these things, right? Yeah. But since I didn't run that course anymore, it's stuff I've not spoken about now for years.
But the course materials are still there, just that you need someone physically to kind of activate it.
Yeah. But it's not as simple as getting someone to teach it because the way I taught it was very personal. You know, it was very, very personal.
Okay, so maybe another question. So maybe you can walk me through, like maybe you, before you start a new course or product or whatever, what goes into your mind to think what should be in the course, how do you craft it, structure it and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I only teach things that I use myself. Right. So when people ask me, why did you start the I'm Gifted program to teach kids how to study? I say, because I'm using all these skills, right? Why did you start the NLP course? Because all these NLP skills really motivate me and change my life. Same thing with investing. So for me to create a course, in terms of the materials, is very easy because it's what I do. So basically, the way I create a course is I pretend that I'm interviewing myself, that I'm modeling myself. What am I doing? All right. So in the case of investing, how do I find an investment? How do I screen for the idea? How do I analyze it? Then when do I buy it? When do I sell it? How much do I buy? Right? I am kind of like modeling my own blueprint. And that's how I come up with that course structure.
I see. All right. Okay. So yeah, then that's all for me. Adam, thank you so much for your time. I love this conversation with you. And as mentioned, right, you've played a huge impact in my life. I'm grateful for it, along with many entrepreneurs that I do know of. So thank you, Adam.
Yeah, pleasure chatting with you.
Right. Thank you.
Right.